Welcome everybody to the Win Again Academy's Clubroom. Super excited today because I've got Kevin Dineen in the house, in the Clubroom. And I've known Kevin for a while now. Really just such a fantastic guy. Look, I'm a huge hockey fan, which is part of what brought me to this point here. But one of the things that I like to do is really help people with, whether it's their interviewing, their job search, there are all kinds of things. And I had a chance to really have a nice couple of chats with Kevin going back a ways. And then he landed his current position with the San Diego Gulls as their head coach. And one thing led to another, and we had a chance to record a podcast. I had a chance to go visit him. He's a lot of fun to play golf with, but also a great guy, very not just knowledgeable about the sport, obviously, but really cares deeply about all the players that play for him and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Kevin into here.
How you doing, Mark?
Fabuloso.
Good.
So last time we spoke not the last time like yesterday, but the last time when we did the podcast, you were at the estate, at the retreat, at the Dineen compound, well, it's always funny how we do these things, because the way we set things up, it's almost like it used to be where we'd be maybe in some sort of a studio or something, and now it's literally like, and you look at people's setup, you'll see like a folding desk and a chair over here that's holding a plastic cup that's holding up something else. But thanks for being here. And I have the same thing right now, so don't look anywhere like down below or something. Anyway, so first things first, Kevin. For those people that don't necessarily know you, I mean, I can tell everybody that you played several seasons, a long time in the NHL, scored over 350 goals. You spent a fair amount of time, maybe about the equivalent of like 16 seasons in the penalty box. Wow, getting a little nauseous here. Oh, look at you.
There we go. I'm going to go outside since I'm the only one. Well, I don't know. There's probably somebody in that the club room that's in a fairly nice climate, but California, we got to get out here and chill a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Rad guy. Okay. Wear the Birkenstocks. Show me those.
My kid is out surfing right now, by the way, so he'll be strolling in a little while.
Oh man. All right. Well, I'll throw a snowball at you later. Anyways, so but tell everybody a little bit about what it's like to, I mean, look, we're about to jump into hockey season in a few days. The NHL starts, they drop the puck in, let's see, 8 days from now. And then you guys start your season in the minors. You get together on I think you said in about a week or so, 6 days. But I think the most important thing I want to know is, how are people getting prepared now? Because it's a totally different scenario, obviously, under COVID, et cetera. And the interesting thing is that it used to be there'd be preseason games and people would kind of really get into the rhythm before starting opening day. Now it's not happening. So give me a sense of how you envision this whole preparation happening and how it's impacting you.
Well, the preparation's already done. I mean, the players have been working out for 6-7 months. They're itching to go. They've done all the off-season work. Everybody's healthy, for one, which is kind of a neat thing. A lot of times you'll have a few bumps and bruises. We have 43 guys at camp and not an injury amongst them. I got to find some wood to knock on here, but you know what? Everybody just is looking forward to getting it back, because I think what it does is it gives us a little sense of normalcy. You do that, you're reading the paper, you see all the stats, specifically here in California, where we have some real challenges going on throughout all walks of life. So you know what? The rink is where we're at our happiest. So all of us are itching to get back on. We've actually the Ducks have started their training camp. I am not part of that process this year, which I usually would be. So I'm up in the stands. I'm watching hockey every day, and I'm enjoying seeing our players. And I'll be able to get out on the ice with them next week, and we'll certainly be ready to hit the ground running.
So you mentioned to me yesterday. So tell me a little bit about the setup this year. You're not going to be in San Diego. So where is the team going to be playing?
We're playing out of Irvine. We have a practice. Most NHL teams have a separate practice facility that'll have a excellent workout area. Some are like in Columbus, Detroit, a few buildings in the league. New Jersey is another one. Their practice facilities are actually hooked up to their main game rinks. So that's an incredible benefit that those teams have. Anaheim's is in a place called Great Park in Irvine, California. So we'll be working out of there. The Ducks will strictly play out of their game rink, and we'll get their practice facility, which is only a year old, and it is top notch. They didn't miss a trick on this thing. I mean, you talk about every amenity you could ever want in any health club, they have it. So not a bad place to go call home, other than I'm going to have about a 75-mile drive each way every day.
Oh,
So I was just in one of the with a table chatting, and we were talking about the traffic that you usually worry about. But if there's one thing that COVID's done, it's given us a little break on the traffic here in California.
well, that's a good point because the 405 is a disaster usually. So, I mean, when I lived out there, I used to figure out exactly what lane I should be in to gain
Right.
a couple car lengths on the, it's crazy. Well, you know what it is that when you put a New Yorker like me in LA, where I go bonkers with the traffic. I mean, everybody else seems fairly used to it or chill about it, but then you get Mr. Aggressive here trying to do this stuff, and maybe I don't make too many friends. I don't know, but so in terms of I'm just curious about how. I mean, look, last year when the NHL resumed their play, the players were in the bubble. Everyone was in the bubble. This year, obviously, that's not happening. How do you tell, or how does a team tell effectively these young men, hey, kind of don't do what you want to do, kind of a thing?
Yeah, that's about the best you can do. You know, and I'll tell you the road rage story, because back in the day, I mean, somebody cut me off, I'd go bonkers. Now that I'm a little more mature, or old is what you call it, I kind of go, hey, you know what? Good luck there, bud. I'm actually heading to the rink. I'm gonna have a big cup of coffee and have chilled out. Actually, one of the players, Drew Miller, is in the club room with us that played with me. So. Millsy, you're not allowed to tell any of the old stories about me snapping every now and then. So that certainly is part of it. But when it gets to this COVID, it's the understanding that, you know what, if this is my profession, this is what I've done, and I'm a 22-year-old kid, man, you got to be able to follow the rules, and you got to take them to the extra precautionary level. So I'm getting tested every day. I had been tested in 6 months. Now I've had 6 tests every day in the last 6 days since I've been going up to Anaheim. So you know what? I'll be able to get in the bubble after tomorrow and be able to go in and chat with some players and get some face-to-face. But I think they realize that not only are they in a fortunate situation that they are, they're able to work right now. There's a lot of people out there that aren't able to do that. And I think it's the new normal. I think people understand these are the sacrifices you're going to have to make. And I know we've had some hiccups around the hockey world, but for the most part, certainly in Anaheim, we've been very conscientious. Good to see.
And when you say go into the bubble, what do you mean by that? Are the players actually playing in some sort of a bubble right now, or how's that working?
I'm sorry.
Well, you said a second ago that beginning tomorrow or the next day you would be able to go into the bubble or something. What do you mean by that?
Because there's different levels. So say there's a level A, which is the players and coaches, and then there's a level 1A, which is the GM, the trainers, the fitness trainers, that kind of thing. Those players, actually, the medical trainers are inside the bubble. So there's different categories for every single person. And when we get going, we'll have our own quote unquote bubble that will have its own rules and regulations. Right now, I'm not allowed around those guys until I've had 7 days of testing, and then I'll be able to get in there on a limited basis. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Now, are you'll still be behind the bench, but don't wearing a mask and all kinds of stuff, or how are they going to do it during the games?
Yeah, it'll be mask, and it'll be, I think when you're addressing your team, you're allowed to lower your mask. And any other time you need your mask up. And I tell you, I watch games, and it just, I watch football games. You're watching whatever it is, and there's always seems to be a little bit of a, I don't know. I mean, sometimes you say, "Oh, are they allowed to do that?" At the end of it, I just think it's up to your own responsibility and what you feel, you're responsible doing, and so you got to wear a mask, and you got to speak very loudly so people can hear you, and you do those things, you're fine.
Should I assume you have a pretty snazzy Gauls mask right now, or
I don't. No, I got the blue one like everybody else in America right now. So
the
I've
blue
got,
one? That's great.
I got that's what I've got. Yeah, you toss it away after you use it a couple days.
Oh, really? Oh, no. There's been so much great mask humor and mask stuff going on, but we don't need to go into that right now. Now, in terms of sort of taking a step way back, another thing I like to talk about, and you know this, is talking about transition and going from playing to what's next. And you and I spoke about this when we had our podcast going back a ways, but I want for this audience, I want you to just tell a little bit about some of what you went through when you realized that you played a long time, but you realized at some point that things are starting to wrap up. And I know you weren't necessarily sure what you want to do, but walk me through a little bit of what you went through when as you neared the end of your career.
Well, I would say it's almost for any athlete, and that doesn't just include professionals. I think somebody that played at the college level or played a high level of athletics, and that's been your life, and that's been where your identity is, where you spend an incredible amount of time, and then when that's taken away from you, whether it's injuries, whether it's old age, whether it's lack of talent, whatever it is, somewhere along the line, Wayne Gretzky is going to retire. Somewhere along the line, Sidney Crosby is going to no longer be a hockey player. So those are the times that all of a sudden, when you start looking on that next horizon, you go, "Oh boy!" And I was a fortunate one. I was 39 when that happened to me. So I had a pretty good run, and a lot of times, you explore a lot of different things, and I give credit to, again, like a guy like Millsy, Drew Miller, that's in the club room here with us, that said, "You know what, getting out of the hockey world," and saying that, I think it never leaves you. I think the impression and the experiences you have inside the sports world certainly carries on, and I think that's probably how you've developed your business, Mark, is realizing that. So uh, people that are able to get outside their comfort level, I am always not only respectful of, but a little envious, because in my world, I was pretty fortunate. If I go back the places I've been, I was here. I'm on my second year in San Diego. I was 5 years in Chicago and 6 years in Portland, Maine. Or excuse me, 3 years in Florida, and then 6 years in Portland, Maine, and 6 years in Columbus, Ohio. So there's a little bit of bouncing around that goes on in the sports world. It's not as glamorous as it seems when you're telling your wife that you're packing up and moving to a new city. Although San Diego's not too shabby.
Yeah, I was going to say that wasn't exactly a downgrade. You did okay. That's great. Well, listen, before we go much further, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to talk about, but I want to also bring a couple folks in to ask some questions, and so I'm going to bring a couple of these people in. Mike has a question for you, and I'm going to let him ask you directly. So, Mike, why don't you? I'm going to invite you in, and you can ask Kevin directly if you'd like. Come on in and ask your question, but don't get into a long story before that. Just ask the question.
Yeah. So my question, Kevin, is looking at your coaching timeline, there's an interesting stop there in 2014 when you coached the Canadian women's team in the Olympic Games. I have two little girls. I come from a family of four boys, and I have two little girls now who, maybe one day play hockey. So I'm interested in just to tell us a little bit about that Olympic Games, how you ended up there. I think you were with an NHL team at the start of that season.
Yeah.
Just what it was like coaching in the Olympics and coaching the women to gold.
And I'll tell you this right off the bat, that I've been fired twice in my life, and both times led to just the most incredible experiences ever. That I was a head coach in Florida for the Panthers. Got let go, and I think it was earlier mid-November. And you're next thing you know, you're kind of woe is me, what's next, and so on and so forth. And you kind of go through that. And I had reached out to some folks at Hockey Canada strictly about coaching the World Championships, which happened at the end of April. So it was a long way off. And sure enough, just by reaching out and touching base with some folks, I got a phone call about 2 weeks later saying that they were making a change at the Olympic level. And I knew they were busy. They had both Olympic teams, the men's and women's teams. They had the Spengler Cup. They had the World Juniors. And sure enough, just by a phone call and reaching out to somebody, my phone rang a couple weeks later and was asked if I was interested in the opportunity coaching the women's team in Sochi. And I have to say, after accepting it and went through it, it was a challenge to hop into somebody where you really don't know any of the players, certainly not personally. But after a couple months, I have to say, it was one of the best experiences of my life. Not only my life, my family's life. I mean, the players were as competitive, as intense, as they got game face like anybody that ever played with or coached before. And in saying that, they also were, I found coaching the women's game, they were very open to instructions. They were very sharp on correct execution, whether it's in practice or the game. They just did things right. I always laugh. I'd always tell them, you know what, the guys, they're bigger, stronger, tougher. They're also stupider and more stubborn, and maybe not more stubborn. I met a couple stubborn players with the women's team as well, but just a fabulous experience. And as you know, Mike, I think the women's game, there is an incredible amount of opportunity in there for a young lady to get a chance to play college hockey like my daughter did, Division III. I don't think there's any better way to enjoy time with your kids than at a rink or a ball field, whatever it is. It was a really neat thing for me to have.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Great answer.
All right, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. And so, what's interesting also is that we're seeing the women's game really growing. I think now, not just in popularity, but I think there's starting to become more movement on the professional side. And I know there's probably still a few more things that have to happen to make it totally cohesive, but it's really impressive. I think that the leaps and strides that's made. So I think what you're going to find hopefully soon is that as women play it more and more, they can actually make a living from it instead of having to play it for just a little bit and then have to have a second job or a third job and that sort of thing. What's now? Did your daughter? Did she want to continue playing it at all, or?
No. You know what? It's there's only a very, very elite from different countries are able to play at the international level, and there is a viable professional option for women right now, and I'm really excited to see that. And one of my ex-players, Gina Hefford, is in charge and has her finger on the PWPA. And for me, it's a high-level, entertaining night of out for somebody somewhere down the line, and I hope to see that have a chance to take off like women's basketball has. So it's still in the growth stage right now, but for my daughter, she took her experiences playing at Colby College, got an internship at NBC in Portland, Maine, and is now a broadcaster there and a weekend anchor. So we're very proud of her, and it's fun to watch her as a young lady in her mid-20s take her own career path, and very enjoyable.
That's awesome. Well, look, I'm going to bring Jake in. He wants to. He's got a question for you. So, Jake, why don't you come on in and ask
Hey,
Kevin your
Kevin.
question?
We briefly spoke a little earlier, but as a recent grad trying to break into the hockey industry, but specifically more hockey operations, what advice do you have for someone like me trying to break into hockey operations?
Well, where did you, Jake? You said are you in the East Coast League?
Yes, I'm an intern with the Jacksonville Icemen.
Yeah, which I tell you what, Jake, be very happy and comfortable right where you are right now because, in all honesty, I know there's a team in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
I know Florida, and you guys in Jacksonville are one of the few teams at the East Coast League. I think
Yep.
I think you guys are at. Is it a dozen or 15
I think there's
teams
like
playing?
13 or 15 teams playing right now.
Yeah. So if you imagine that out of between you and yeah, there's probably 15 teams I think are not playing this year,
Mm-hmm.
including my brother who's an associate coach with the Adirondack Thunder.
Okay.
We just made an announcement yesterday at the American League level that 3 teams have opted out of
Mm-hmm.
playing. So you can always look towards the next step. For me, the best advice is be really good right where you are,
Okay.
right? You can always kind of keep looking for the next step, but just know, you know what, right now where you're at, and I know it's a little bit of a challenge because I don't know what the numbers are you guys are allowing in the building.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, right now you're fortunate to be working and to be on a valuable franchise that's actually playing. So take advantage of that right now. Never hurt. You know what? Sometimes before the game, there's the press room. There might be a few folks floating around in there, and just continue to take advantage of opportunities like this to be able to get out and chat with folks and maybe collect a few names and keep expanding your circle of people. And you know, there's a lot of people that want to get in the sports business,
Yep.
but I find that people that just burst off the page with enthusiasm, those are the people that you kind of stick in your mind a little bit.
Okay, for sure. Awesome. Thanks for the advice.
You got it, buddy.
Great question, Jake. Thanks.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, of course. So, I've decided that really there's, when you're done with this whole hockey thing, you can start doing this whole coaching thing. That was great advice. That was really good. And it's true because, I think that regardless of whether you're looking for something new or not, or if you're looking to grow anything or not, but just it always makes sense to just have introductory chats with people just to get to know them. And what's also interesting is, especially at things like this, it's not necessarily that I need to ask you, Kevin, hey, tell me about blah, 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 but I can say to you, Kevin, do you know anybody that, and then you can think about your network. So when you're at an event like this, it's not just the person you're speaking to, but it's the person and their network. So it's always important to just sort of ask people and talk to them about what they do, and then sort of try to help them. But at the same time, they're going to offer to help you, but they'll ask you, well, who can I introduce you to in my network? So I think it's, it's just, especially during all this COVID stuff, it's just so important to kind of keep plugging along. And I'm going to do a shameless plug for this kind of the Clubroom here, but it's so important to keep on meeting people, and in a way that you're not necessarily just listening to people talk, but you're able to interact. So great question. I'm gonna bring in your guy Drew in here too. He has a question for you, and I'll bring him in right now.
Hey, what's up, Dino? So my question is, so pretty much through your career as a player and a coach, you've had some ups and downs and transitions and like been fired a few times. Like, what are some of your tactics? Some of the things that kind of got you to continue on and move past it and find a way to be more successful from the learning experience, but also not just in hockey, but can you try to relate that to the business world for other people?
Yeah. I'll say this and always have that caveat that you know what, it's easier said than done. because when you get let go or traded, or somebody gets on furlough, whatever the situation is, there's some sting there, right? It's got some bite to it when all of a sudden you've been at a friend of mine was working at a hotel in Vegas for 20 some odd years, and had tremendous success there. And obviously with the pandemic hitting, they made some corporate changes, and he was given a buyout. And you know what? It was just really interesting to have a little chat with him and talk about. I guess I would call it a little bit of the kind of the sting, and you kind of sometimes you don't wish your organization well. Those are human emotions. Those are natural, but they're also, you know what? It's just pushing things in the wrong direction, because really nobody really gets wrapped up in that. There's different reasons. I got fired in Florida. At the end of it, my team wasn't very good, right? I mean, it didn't make any difference with a new group in there to coach. And sometimes you feel like, oh, you got satisfaction at that. That's just wasted energy for me. And again, it's not an easy thing to get over, but when you get on to the next level, some of the best things I've seen is when somebody gets fired or gets replaced, you say on your way out, your exit meeting, whatever the situation, what advice would you give me moving forward to be better at my next job, right? So you're literally, people say, well, we feel we need to change the direction. Sometimes you want a little more feedback. You know what? That's what we do as coaches all the time. We give brutal honesty, man. I never want to say anything about somebody I'm not going to say to them, right? So, you know what? Give me a little feedback. And truthfully, I've never done that, but I do know someone that has. And the next time I'll ask the question. So it's you know what? Keep moving forward. Don't look at it as much personal as maybe a decision is being made. Certainly in the corporate world, that's happening a lot right now.
Oh, that's great. Good advice. Thanks, Drew. All right, so I'm gonna bring in one more person for quick question here. And Danielle's got, you were chatting with her earlier, but she's got a really great question here. This looks good.
I'm a firm believer that the most important life lessons are learned through team sports, not in the classroom. And I say that as an educator. I think the classroom misses out on a lot of very important life skills and lessons. So I'm wondering, what is an important lesson that you always make sure to give to your team, something that they can use both on the field or the ice and off?
That is a good question. And, for me, I just, I think the number one thing, certainly for young players coming in, and I've got an interesting job, Danielle, because some of my players are 18 or 19 years old and some are in their mid 30s, and they're all on the same level playing field, other than tenure. They're all in the same lineup. We're wearing the same jersey. So sports is a great equalizer in that thing. But I think what I always try to tell to young players coming in is just absolutely maximize your potential. Meaning, I guess that's a little coach speak, but it really is true. You want to be absolute best you can be. So, in sports, it's not always you're going to be the quote unquote rock star, the guy that's going to score the game-winning touchdown, that kind of thing. You're a piece of a puzzle, and you can have a long and successful career when you can find a niche that leads to team success. To me, that's what sports is all about. We're not boxing, we're not tennis or golf. you've got to be able to function with another group, and you've got to find a role that's going to benefit the whole crew. And when you can do that, and everybody accepts that they have a certain role, and that's not always easy, because we're in a business where there's a lot of strong personalities, and I get that, and I enjoy that. Right? That's what I really enjoy, is being about a bunch of young men that are enthusiastic, are very, very good at what they do, and they challenge me every day. So it's finding that environment and finding the best way you can do that. But back to my original thing, absolutely, absolutely maximize the most you can out of your hockey career, and that might not mean that you're going to get to the NHL. It's being as good a player as you can be, whether it's at the level I'm coaching at, which is one level below the NHL, or making the effort to get all the way there.
Thank you.
That's great. Great question, Daniel. Thank you. And it's interesting, because I think a lot of people sometimes feel that they failed somehow because they didn't attain the top level. And I think it's important to, just as you're saying, that when you're teaching someone that that if they've, and you mentioned it to Drew earlier, I mean, when you maximize the talent that you have, you can walk away when the time comes with with your chin up, right, and you're proud. And I think that's the most important thing. That's great. One more question. We're going to jump in with Jeff. Jeff wants to. He's got a great question for you also.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, Jeff. Good.
I didn't get to tell you where I am. I'm in New York too, but I'm closer to you in Lake George.
Nice. Where are you at?
Kingston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 87, exit 19.
Exactly. I know exactly where you are. Exit 19 going the other way, on the other side of Albany.
Yeah,
right?
south. Yeah.
South of Albany, yes. Because believe it or not, I'm exit 19 north of Albany.
Oh, I didn't know they switched. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything revolves around Albany, as we all know.
Maybe that's our big problem.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. So Kevin, I wanted to ask you. I do a good amount of mentoring at the collegiate level with student athletes, but I'm curious. When you're coaching someone, right? And let's say they're at their tail end of their career, right? Maybe they know it, maybe they don't, right? And maybe they want to stay in the athletic world. Maybe they want to do something else professionally, but they don't even necessarily know how to translate all the things they've done, and like the last few questions, as an athlete, as a team sport, as the things they have. Like, how do you? I'd love to hear your perspective on that conversation, because I get really passionate about it when I talk to student athletes, but I'm curious on the professional side how those conversations go, or if they even happen.
Well, I won't say there's a level of denial. I guess I just said that, so I guess I will say that. I think a lot of players will have that mentality. Hey, they're going to have to tear the skates off me before I quit, and I think other people will take a more balanced approach and start looking. And the part that I'm happy about now, and I know professional sports is a huge business, but players have a little more leeway to kind of feel their way into the next step than they once did. A lot of times when guys used to retire, they needed a job just to pay the rent next month. And that's changed a little bit. Certainly players are well compensated at the NHL level, and as they are at our level now as well. So I think that's a good thing. These players work hard. It's great entertainment, and it's good to see that. I like the idea you have that. Like, one of my ex-players is in here, and Millsy was always a cerebral player, and that's how he made his living. And we were talking with the two of us were in another club room, and we were talking just briefly about some of the guys that we had were his teammates and I was coaching, and how really scary tough these guys were. And you would say you'd want to find, you want to direct people into a area that, for me, that you get a chance that you're passionate about. I've had players that are just crazy about fishing and hunting. Timmy Brent, who Drew would know, ended up getting involved in a televised sports outdoor show. And if you can find something that you're very passionate about, I don't think there's any better mix to head into your next step. So I don't think I did a very good answering that question, because you are right to a certain extent. I think it's a hard conversation, and it's certainly a hard conversation right in the middle of when you're right in the middle of the season.
Yeah, but I also think there's so many relatable skills. They just haven't made that connection.
That's, I think, what Mark might have a better answer than I on that one, because I agree with you 100% that there's so many times that there's such a crossover. I'm on Coronado Island. That's where we live here, and we train the Navy SEALs. Every SEAL that is in the United States force here is trained right here on Coronado. So we got a lot of guys around here that have done an incredible job relating and representing their country. So I've made the effort to get our players in contact with them, to get over to the base, to actually have a leadership meetings with them, and it's very interesting. It's kind of a two-way street that people relate to athletes and the military, people relate to athletes and business, that there's so many of the same tenets will work in one area that can carry over and help you have success in your next venture as well.
Oh, that's great.
Thank
you. All right, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. We'll see you in a sec. So yeah, I mean, look, well, you're right. I do some of that stuff. Hey, Kevin, by the way, turn on a light or something. You're suddenly in the dark.
That's just where I look better, like this.
Anyway, that's pretty fun.
I'll go back inside.
You turn off the lights and the sunlight in there.
I know.
But anyway, so one of the things that I like to talk about is that a lot of times you're absolutely right. I think a lot of athletes don't necessarily appreciate or understand a lot of the things that they do bring to the table, and there's a whole lot of things, and a lot of them people know, the concept that virtually every athlete is coachable and manageable, which is not always the case with other people. Athletes are used to being in front of the media, in front of cameras, in front of crowds, so they can certainly do a lot of PR. They can do a lot of sales and business development. I mean, there's a lot of directions that athletes can go outside of sports that a lot of times they don't necessarily realize, and they sometimes default to wanting to stay either in their sport or maybe settle for something they shouldn't have. So that was really good. One quick, I guess, sort of thing I wanted to ask you, though, is what kind of advice would you give a player who, you're right, they may think like they're jinxing it by thinking about a plan B. They want to focus on their plan A. I mean, I'm playing hockey, I'm on the rink. But what kind of advice would you give them to not necessarily think about, well, what happens after they leave the sport, but maybe is there a secondary, like an interest they can develop or something else that they can do aside from hockey that might, because one things I see a lot is that when a player develops an interest outside of hockey that's not necessarily taking them away from the time they need to dedicate to it, they'll perform better on the ice because they're almost like they're activating another side of their brain, kind of a thing.
Right.
But what kind of advice would you give players, especially as they progress towards the end of their career?
Oh, well, it is. I just have to say that's a really hard one to answer, because I won't say demand, but I think we expect that players, certainly at the NHL level, are going to be fully invested and focused strictly on their playing careers. Like I said, they very, very well compensated. Yeah. They are they're given a great opportunity. Here's a couple things. Number one, When you're playing sports, I don't care at what level, you're exposed to a lot of people in different areas of the world. You might be coaching a kids team, and you might meet somebody's dad that you might find interest in their business. You might, like you say, during the summer, you're playing a professional sport, and all of a sudden you're going to take some classes, and you get the opportunity to meet people maybe outside of your comfort zone or outside of your regular circle. And those are the kind of relationships that can last a long time and can help you moving forward. And I think it's always easy to strike up a conversation. Sometimes the bigger challenge is to carry on that relationship. And again, I think you'd be a guy that had better advice as far as trying to keep in touch with everybody, either through, a LinkedIn format or sending a quick email after, what have you, to help take that relationship to the next level.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, look, obviously I can talk forever about that stuff, but well, look, I really appreciate your time today. I sincerely do. I guess it's obviously hard for fans or et cetera, or anybody in the San Diego area to attend the game this year, but hopefully in the next season, and you'll still be manning the helm and so forth. I think I feel perfectly comfortable suggesting that you're willing to basically give people some nice like maybe a suite or two up at in future games, right?
Yeah, you got to get to San Diego too. You probably want me to get them a flight as well, eh? Anybody comes to San Diego, tickets are on me for sure.
Oh, there you go.
That's an automatic.
That's excellent. Thank you. I mean, that's really nice. So one other thing, just real fast, I'm going to post in the I just did. If anybody here today wants to register, please do for Thursday's event. And by the way, Kevin, Robert Owens is in San Diego. That's where he lives. You've got to meet him someday. He is this guy completed 5 incredible events. He did the Kokoro. Do you know what that is by any chance? Have you heard of it?
I don't.
So Kokoro is the event that the SEALs do right there in San Diego. It's a 50-hour endurance test.
Okay.
Where they hose you down. They do all kinds of stuff to you. And
right.
Robert Owens was 66, and he managed to get through those 50 hours. He ran the World Marathon Challenge, which is 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. That's pretty badass. And he's like total surfer dude guy. He was a lifeguard, when he was a teenager and all that stuff on the beaches there. So I'm gonna at some point introduce you guys. You'd get along wonderfully. He's quite a character. And then Joe DeSena, who's the founder of Spartan Races, the endurance races and stuff. He's pretty cool. So I'm not asking you to attend, but I don't think you have anything else going on right now, but if you did, but anyway, but for anybody else, make sure you click on that link and then use the promo code New Year, and then you get a free ticket to attend. That's Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Those guys are amazing. Check them out. So make sure you register for that. And other than that, Kevin, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're going to go hang out at the tables for a little bit, and then we can cut loose after that and watch some hockey from there. But I'm going to stop the presentation now, and I truly appreciate your time, Kevin. Thanks so much.
Good chat with you,
All right, I'll see you in a bit. Yep. Cheers.
Bye.